Welcome back to Black Swan Outdoors, and today we are going to talk about what we'll call site surveillance. We've been talking, we did a whole series about maps and mapping and how to kind of better communicate using a map and how to kind of think about building maps. So if you're interested in this kind of topic, certainly check this out. Our theme lately has been escape and evacuation. And so we've been talking about some of these skills that you could build up if you are traveling in a non-permissive environment that you could have. And in that theme, we've been talking about different things that you can do with your notebook to kind of prepare your notebook for a non-permissive environment, and the different things you can record in your notebook. So today, what we're going to talk about, as I said before, is site surveillance. And essentially, this is a means in which you can communicate a site, the features of a site, and particularly of buildings. Okay, so the context, or kind of the fictitious story that we gave in our blog post about this, is that you are a traveler. The coup has broken out. You were stuck in a hotel, and a national is coming to come and rescue you to get you from the hotel. You need to communicate to them where you're at. Now, certainly there's ways in which you can do this. You can use a signal mirror from your window. You can use a strobe, like an MS-2000 strobe. You can get up to the roof and do this as well. You can use a buzzsaw, which is just we've done videos on this, which is just, and there's plenty of YouTube videos on this, which is a light glow stick or a chem stick with on paracord, and you swing it around and it makes a circle. And so there's a lot of different things that you can do in terms of signaling. Now, if you had to communicate what window you were in a building, how would you do that? Well, you could use this technique from our site surveillance. One of the things that we also talk about in terms of self-defense and learning some of these skills is understanding and watching individuals and trying to understand what other people are doing in order to protect yourself. And so if you're building or your home, a dam, a power plant, a fuel facility, whatever is under surveillance for a particular terrorist attack, as we've seen lots of these terrorist attacks on facilities and power plants in the US, for example, and there's plenty of examples of this abroad. That one of the things that people could do is they could be taking photographs, video, or even sketching the facilities, looking for the weaknesses and vulnerabilities within those facilities, kind of putting together a plan. So if you start seeing people using techniques like this could be a tip-off that, hey, there might be something nefarious happening. So again, not always is this to protect, or these skills used to protect yourself, as in our example of the traveler, but you could use it to protect yourself from, or your community, as in this potential infrastructure attack by a terrorist. All right. So now that we've kind of got that, kind of the why aside, let's take a look at this diagram. And I apologize, I'm not very good at is drawing. But I also think that this is a good lesson in a sense that you don't have to be a great sketch artist. You don't have to have great artistic skills. So don't be afraid of this. I've got about a third grade level of writing, and that's just what it is. So hopefully you'll be able to see this from the diagram, what we're talking about, and I'll break this down. So as we're looking at our building, we need to have a way to describe that building effectively. And this is kind of the point of it. And a lot of what we talk about here at Black Swan Outdoors, when we're talking about radio communications and we're talking about map making and all the different tools that we have, is really effective communications. We use certain types of radio reports, for example, to increase our communications, making things are precise and clear, concise. And that's really, really important especially when you're speaking on a radio. So if you're communicating to somebody, let's pick up George at the hotel. What hotel? Where is he? Where is he? What floor is he on? What room is he? Oh, okay. Yeah. And then you'd be able to kind of take that information and communicate amongst each other in a much more effective way. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the face of this building, and we're going to designate that a color. Okay. Actually, let me step back. If you're using the grid system that we talked about on our previous map, you could use a grid graphic to kind of divide up a city so that you can help kind of better describe locations and where you're at and finding people. Within that grid, you can also assign buildings numbers. And so prominent buildings or prominent maybe even statues or parks or whatever even too could all have specific numbers with a key. Remember when we talked about our strip map video, a lot of this was based off of what we used were tourist maps. And it's exactly what tourist maps do. Sometimes they have a key of different features that you can look for, and they have a graph or a grid, and then they'll say, you know, B6 is the fountain or whatever, right? No different. This is kind of what we're doing here. And so what we could do is we could say, okay, well, the Ritz-Carlton or wherever we're staying is grid reference 12, right? As example. So the building is building 12. So you want to refer to that as 12 or, you know, Ritz-Carlton. But if you wanted to be a little bit more secure in your communications, you don't want to blabber around at, hey, we're picking up this guy at the Ritz-Carlton on an open channel radio. You could just say, you know, the GRG 12 is the building. So we kind of have an idea. Next, what we're going to want to do is kind of break down the sides of that building. There's a couple different ways to do this. I don't think that there's a right way or wrong way. I just think there's different advantages and disadvantages. Generally, you can have north representing, or your cardinal directions rather, representing different colors, or you can have kind of a standardization of colors of building perspective. So, for example, the main entrance of a building will be white, whereas the back of that building is always going to be black. Okay. Alternatively, you could just say white is north, black is south, west is red, east is blue. The colors don't matter. The directions don't matter. You know, none of that matters. All that matters is that you have a plan in place on how you're going to communicate that. Okay. So it could be, you know, yellow. It could be, you know, mauve. I don't care. You probably want to stick with your primary colors, and because you're just going to stick with our cardinal directions. But I hope you get the point, right? The idea here is that you have a specific color that's going to denote the face of the building in reference. All right. From here, then what we're going to do is we're going to take each floor of that building and we're going to divide that up into letters. Okay. Starting with A as your base or ground, first floor. B, second floor. C, third floor. D, C, E, and so on and so on. If you're talking about a large building that has, you know, multiple floors, you know, we're going to go beyond our alphabet capability of 27 letters. Then you start going AA, BB, CC, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that is going to help us get us to if we're looking for our lost traveler, to the right floor that he might be on. Let's say he is on the 5th floor, so that's E, Echo. Okay, and then last here is we're going to isolate the room that he's at or the area that he's at based on the entry point or exit point. Now, for all of these level, you know, windows up above, that's for everything up above, it's most likely just going to be windows. For a ground floor, that's going to be your windows and doors. So starting on A, on the ground level, we have 1 for a window, 2 is the door, and 3 is a window, right? That's just how I'm doing that. If the people have different means of doing that, please share. So again, on B or on Bravo, 1, 2, 3, windows 1, 2, and 3. Just in this diagram of multiple windows, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on Delta. Our traveler here, he happens to be at window number 1. Right here. Okay. So if you could say, well, he's at the, you know, 5th floor west window, right? That might work as well. However, if you have kind of a grid, again, you could have this, describing this could be a little bit more, less obvious for people who might be listening in on your radio communications. Also, if you're not using the cardinal directions in reference, someone might have to pull out a compass or their phone or GPS to know which side of the building is the west side. They might not know that initially or be familiar with the area. Otherwise, they'll know red, left as you're facing it is red. So they'll know exactly what you're talking about, and they'll know E is in the 5th floor and not confuse that with the 5th window. Okay. So that's, again, it's all about ease and clarity and simplicity in our communications. So if I was on a radio and I wanted to communicate with window or where I was at, let's say I'm the traveler down to my the guy who's coming to rescue me, my rescue party, I could just simply tell them that I'm number 12, Blue Echo 1. He's going to look up the building. He's going to see my flashes from a MS-2000 strobe. Got you. They got a visual. Now they know exactly where to go to get me, or that I could come down or whatever. And I've confirmed them. Hopefully this was an interesting video. I know some of these notebook videos are a little boring, but I think they're very practical skills, and they're interesting skills that one could practice while you're out and about, particularly if anyone likes to travel a lot. They can take their notebook out and start using it instead of having an empty notebook and wondering why do people have notebooks when they travel. Well, aside from writing journals and notes, and different things, you can actually start kind of implementing some of these exercises in your travel for practice. So again, this was site surveillance tip here. For more videos like this, stay tuned. We'll be doing another video very similar to this in this series. That'll be up shortly as well. So if you like this series, definitely want to hang tight, check that one out. It's going to be an interesting one, I think. Remember to like and subscribe, and if you have any other techniques or skills in relation to this that you think might be helpful, please put them down in the comments below. Yeah, stay tuned for the next video.